Salaji is a hot talking point. I mean, what do you think of Salaji? We had a victim here, bemoaning what's going on at Salaji.
But this is a government that does not respect its own procedures. It does not respect its own official actions. And I hope to God that people of Salaji would take the government to court and get adequate compensation. Not just compensation, but also damages. Because if government would give you a paper as title to land, so it means government has accepted the underlying transactions for those lands. You see, it's in law, you cannot go back, on your promise, on your undertaking. Because by accepting the transactions and giving you the paper, they are foreclosed from going back.
Explain this to me, because government is saying that they acquired the area they're carrying out the demolitions in.
But the thing is, the people were given building permits. By who?
Okay.
By who?
Now you're clear. Those who
by the government.
Those who erected structures, homes or whatever,
yes,
had been cleared.
Yes.
By, an agency, a window of the government to go and do what they did.
Exactly.
Okay.
Shouldn't that government own up to that? I understand there are two things here. There is compulsory acquisition. Okay? It's accepted by the Constitution and a procedure is laid out.
Okay, who did compulsory acquisition here?
No, I'm coming. Yeah. You have two things.
Okay.
One is compulsory acquisition. The other is enforcing the laws that you cannot build on land that you do not own, or you cannot build on reserved lands. These are two different things and require two different legal tracks. What was the government doing? Were they compulsorily acquiring, or were they enforcing the laws of physical planning? Because if they were enforcing the laws of physical planning, they are estopped. This is the doctrine of estoppel. It's a contract. They are estopped by the fact that they have issued the planning permissions for these buildings. So it could not have, therefore, been enforcement of the physical planning laws. So were they doing compulsory acquisition? Compulsory acquisition does not allow you to just come and bulldoze and then you compensate. No, there is a process. So what were they doing? They were doing wanton, foolish and stupid destruction of people's properties, causing unnecessary grief for people, causing unnecessary stress, compelling people to homelessness. All this could have been avoided. Government should have sat down with the people, look at the map, look at the situation, accept their own failings, and negotiate with the people as to best way to solve this problem in a humane way and in a way that would take into account the problems of the people. Would they give them alternative accommodation? How much compensation should they pay? Who is entitled to that compensation and things like that? That is what the government should have done, but not just come bim, bim, bam. That is abuse of authority. They did it in the clearance operations. Look at how much destruction they have done. If a person owns a table and invested a lot of resources in that table, why come and damage the table?
Yeah, because the table is in the wrong place, sir.
But the thing is, the remedy.
We should be an ordered society.
I agree.
I'm sure if you go, whenever you've been to Rwanda, not once, not twice, and whenever you've been there, you've loved the country because it's ordered.
I have never been there.
Oh, you've never been?
No,
Surprise.
I'm longing to go.
You should.
I'm longing to go.
Well, that's one country I've been to that you haven't been to.
Thank you. But you have highly accomplished. So, but the solution to that problem is not destruction. The solution to that problem is removal.
Okay.
These two things are fundamentally different.
Yeah, destruction, absolutely. I
destruction
agree.
is foolish, is stupid.
Yeah, remove the table, don't destroy it.
Exactly.
But in most cases, it's because these are permanent fixtures.
Even if they are permanent fixtures, there's a way to do it. But look, these people, they just went on a rampage and left a lot of debris in their way.
And, the sad thing is, all of that chaos has literally moved back in once they once they reached another place.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you know what? For some of these things, it is them who give the authorization in the first place. It's them and the area councils.
To put up those structures?
Yes, it's them and the area councils.
Okay.
So that is why you don't authorize a person to do something and then you turn around and punish the person.
We must leave room for some of the questions, and I'm still not done with mine. The point is telling us this morning, Kanilai Ferry back in operation. Where am I going with that? Earlier on, you hinted at the Senegambia bridge being, recycled. Yeah, there are people who don't like the expression. The ports is gone. GCCA, or is it GCAA? Gambia Civil Aviation. Yeah, GCAA. GCAA.
Yes.
Civil Aviation Authority. Friendship Hotel. They are next in line.
But it's a transactional government. That's what the head of our...
How much harm do you think this is inflicting on our economy? Their explanation is we are not just good at maintaining facilities. Which you look at the ferry, look at this sorry ferry situation.
You know something. There is also what is called national pride. That is very important. Okay, businesses strictly censor don't necessarily operate on principles of humanity. It's profit, but a government has an obligation to ensure that the principles that they operate under are also humane. They are also just for the people. So by giving everything away to private businesses, you are taking away that possibility. So people are now at the mercy of the business. But why is it that government can't even be efficient? Isn't that a defeatist position? You are saying that you are incapable. Well, if you are incapable, resign from office. If Barrow is incapable of ensuring that the departments under him or the entities under him cannot perform, he should resign.
If you like what you are seeing, please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe.
That is what should happen. And not necessarily mortgage these things. And mortgage them cheaply. I use the word mortgage. Just to show that it is just a one-ton transfer of assets to others at very little interest to government. Look at ports, sharing arrangement, 80% to the Turkish, 20% to Gambia. What have they brought in there? The only thing they have brought in is system change.
And it's worked immediately. Apparently, the backlog of ships, has disappeared overnight.
Isn't that an indictment to the government? That you cannot even organize an entity to be efficient? Yeah. The government must resign. That's what they should do. An honorable government would resign because they are incapable of delivering on the wishes and the aspirations of the people.
Okay, so you wouldn't recycle?
No. Well, look, in this business, you don't say no or never. There are certain things that are not necessarily for government to do. All right? But for a developing country, there are certain things that represent our sovereignty. Really, you want government to retain it.
One big money gobbler, and they have to be commended for taking, a decision not to continue, putting money in a black hole. That is NAWEC. NAWEC consumes a lot of money. The pressure on the Dalasi, part of it is NAWEC because, we were buying electricity from outsiders who had to be paid in foreign currency. But they have, mutually agreed with Car Powership that a contract that was initially to last for 2 years has gone on since 2018. So Car Powership is on its way out. I hope we don't start being punished for that, so that it justifies bringing them back. I think we should move forward from. How would you deal with NAWEC?
I think that there are. It's difficult to deal with it blindly without knowing all the underlying causes of this problem.
Yeah, one thing, they eat up a lot of money annually.
Yes. But what I would do is first I will commission a detailed study about the terrible malaise that afflicts now.
The finance minister tried to do that, and he faced incredible pushback.
Okay. The reason then is it is constituted by people who do not want the problem solved.
That is correct.
So how do you deal with that? It's removal.
So you would have no qualms sacking people, heads rolling.
No, you don't necessarily sack.
What do?
You can move.
Yeah, you move them there, they take their habits with them. That's how we are.
No.
You move one permanent secretary from information to prisons, they go with their habits.
No, you see, that's why for APP Sobea, one of our important priorities is public sector reform. We have to study the entire public sector and ensure reform. We would have to bring in a lean, efficient, and highly qualified public service. And those who would be made redundant would be retrained, repurposed, and redeployed.
I was going to ask,
places.
how would you deal with unemployment then?
Yes, that's why I said
So
they
when
would
you
be retrained and repurposed and deployed in other places.
Sure.
But there are some who you just make redundant, give them compensation, and help them set up businesses. We did that in 1985, so we have experience in doing that.
At the heart of the ERP,
Exactly.
Economic Recovery Program.
So we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. We ensure that it is done in a very humane way. It is doable. We can do it. And in that process, you deal with NAWEC. Set up a new institution, but make sure that you give it the tools to be able to do its work properly. We have to address the problem of leakages in distribution. We generate well, but distribution involves a lot of leakages. We have to fix that.
Yeah.
We also have to fix the problem in the procurement system. Gambia's biggest problem is the stealing and the corruption in the procurement system.
True.
GPPA is doing very, very well, but it cannot police everything.
Yeah, but GPPA also is being criticized for exempting, certain institutions we know have an integrity problem.
But that is why you need a government that is very serious about corruption. Look, we talked about this ghost worker problem. How many people have been arrested? 0.
To date, yes. 0.
How many people have been prosecuted? 0. You mean 2,142 people were receiving salaries illegally? And up to now, you're telling me nobody has been arrested. You are promoting corruption. In fact, that is a violation of the laws of the country, because the president's primary responsibility is to ensure implementation and upholding of the law. So now you have 2,142 people unjustifiably receiving a salary. And nobody's been even interviewed at the police. That is a national tragedy. What is happening? Are they sleeping at State House? Don't they know what they should be doing?
Well, give them credit for carrying out the audits that unearthed all these ghost workers.
But what is the benefit of a study, the results of which would be either thrown in the dustbin or put on the shelves to gather dust? Well, that is also part of the Barrow system of administration. Look at the Constitution, the draft Constitution. How much money spent on that?
The 2020.
The 2020, $100 and something million.
116.
116 is jettisoned into the dustbin. TRRC, look at the recommendations. You accepted 265 out of 268 recommendations, and then you put the report in the dustbin.
That report must have been very well written, huh?
Well, give credit.
For 265 out of 268 to convince them.
In fact, the 3 that have been rejected are 3 that have been rejected on political grounds.
How do you mean?
Yes, because it's inconvenient for President Barrow to accept that some of his friends and some of the people he work with have done things that merit them not working for government any longer. He would not accept it.